Good evening. We are live with college football with Heather, yours truly, and I have my amazing. I don't know what I want to call him. I can't swear. I'm not allowed to swear. I have my
It's already
co-host with
begun.
me.
It's already begun.
I was actually warned 2 minutes before we got on here that I had to watch my mouth, so that should tell you. So I have my indie co-host with me. So we're gonna get some. I think we're gonna get some Notre Dame shots fired. We're gonna get some Ohio State shots fired. We're just gonna have some friendly fire. So you guys, you're in for a ride.
I would never do such a thing.
No. So we'll go ahead and get the intros out of the way, the pleasantries out of the way before we get into this. You guys know I'm Heather. You can follow me on X at Love Buckeyes. Don't forget to check us out at bougiesports.net. Everything is there at the bottom. Bougiesports.net is going to give you everything. It's going to show you where you can follow us. It's going to show you where you can find us. It's going to show you all of the shows that we're doing. We have an amazing network of women that do all kinds of different shows. So check us out on bougiesports.net. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube at Bougie Sports. Getting that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, my favorite co-host, my Indy, Notre Dame, Purdue. I think you're rocking the Purdue today because, you gotta feel like a winner somehow.
Purdue doesn't really give that basketball season, thank God.
But this is college football, so we're not going to talk about that.
Thank you.
But you guys, if you don't follow Mike, follow all of the everything that I have down there at the bottom. All kidding aside, Mike does an amazing, awesome, fantastic show. Yes, Indie Sports. He does an amazing show. You were doing it on Fridays. I think now it's Thursdays. I'll turn it over to you. Tell us where we can find you and your awesome project.
Yes. So as Heather said, on the old X Twitter machine, or whatever it is you're calling it, at the Chill Mike. You can also find at indiesports_IESR. Those are the two pages I hang out. Then, of course, you can follow us at IE Sports Radio on all of the social media platforms. My show will be tomorrow, same time. So Thursdays at 7. We'll go back to Fridays just because, full-time work and responsibilities. But yeah, hopefully if you're able to tune in, I'm going to have a special guest on my show tomorrow evening, right about the time we have Notre Dame Penn State kickoff. So you might be looking at her on the screen right now if you're watching live.
Maybe we'll right in the middle of the game, you guys. I mean, what's more appropriate than talking about college football while college football is on?
Well, our voices are way better than the ones on TV anyway, so just hang out with us for a half hour.
Right. It's BSPN. Nobody wants to listen to them anyway, unless it's Pat McAfee doing the sideline. No one wants to listen to them anyway. Well, thank you. So everybody, please go follow Mike. Check out his pages, and if you can, check out the show tomorrow. Check out the show every week. It's a really good show. So
thank you.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, we've got a lot to go over. Lots of it feels like, I don't know. It's kind of bittersweet because college football is almost over, right? We're going into the semis. Right. The national title game is January 20th, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's almost over, but in a sense, it almost feels like it's heating up a bit because now you have, the transfer portals going, you've got new NIL deals going, you've got the draft coming up. So there's so much going on. So we're going to get right into it. I talked about the transfer portal. Transfer portal for me is just kind of a disaster right now. It's kind of a disorganized mess. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on the transfer portal?
It is an absolute mess, and it's a nightmare to keep up with. I can tell you that much. From a fan's perspective, it's terrible. I can understand it from the player perspective and the benefits of that, and I understand that. I do think something's got to be tweaked here, though, just in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm seeing, and it's not just. Obviously, as we know, this is mostly football, basketball related, but. I covered a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit of volleyball on my show. And you got the volleyball players doing the same thing.
We got softball players doing the same thing. Because I'm really into college softball. You've got it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, Purdue just signed I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's been to 2 colleges already, and Purdue will be her 3rd.
Yep.
It's like No,
So that's where do you draw the line? Okay, so just to give, I get a little bit of the rules. Okay, so it's not like it's willy-nilly, right? You can't in the middle of the season. Now let me say, you can't in the middle of the season say, I'm entering the transfer portal and then enter the transfer portal. At the beginning of the year, we did have players that were doing that. We had players who were saying they opted to redshirt so they could enter the transfer portal. Now, they didn't technically because there's an entry window. So right now it's over, but it was December 9th through December 28th.
Mm-hmm.
There are exceptions to that, though. So the exception to that is if you're in the college football playoffs or if you're playing some of these later bowl games, then you have a 5-day window in January that you're allowed to declare because they want to try to prevent players from entering the portal while they're still in these bowl games. It doesn't matter. These players are still saying they're going to transfer. Ohio State has several. These players are still transferring before they even finish their college football playoffs. It's not like it's some meaningless bowl game that they're that they're sitting out. And then they open it back up in the spring. So this year in 2025, it's weird to say that this year it's going to be April 16th through April 25th. So they have these small windows where they can actually enter the transfer portal. But one of the things that I was looking at was that tampering. So of course tampering happens, right? Like you're not going to prevent that. So what's stopping some of these boosters when these kids are, 2 games into the season and their team is crapping the bed, I'm not allowed to swear, is not playing well. So what's to stop some of these players who are saying, okay, I'm in a red shirt because then when the transfer portal opens up, I'm going to enter. So what's stopping these boosters from going into these players, these kids, and saying, if you give us a look here, I got $1 million for you. What's going to stop that? I know there are rules in place, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, it kind of sinks into like you were saying with NIL too, right? And something's going to have to be, and I know there's talk of this already. To me, they're going to have to put some sort of cap on this. I don't know, and it's going to be easier said than done. I understand that, but right now there's just it's nothing. I mean,
there's no rules. It's a free for all. So
exactly, it's Wild West.
There has to be an in between where it used to be where you had to, you had to sit out 1 year or you had to apply for a hardship and, you lost a year of eligibility. Like there has to be something in between there. So, maybe they don't let them, maybe you have to stay 2 years at your school, or maybe you're limited. Maybe you're only allowed, if you're a 4-year player, maybe you're only allowed once or twice every 4 years. If you end up getting that extra year, that 5th year of eligibility because you're a graduate or you redshirt, maybe it's 3 years. I don't know. There has to be something that they can do though, because this is insanity. Because we're going to segue into the next thing. They're talking about adding an extra year of eligibility for these players without having to apply for it. So let's say that they do get this. Let's say that they look at this and they add that 5th year. What's to stop a player from transferring 5 years? I mean, maybe it doesn't happen, but I guarantee you one time it will. I promise you.
For sure will. It for sure will. Because they're going to go chase that money. Be like, I can get more NIL here. I can go get more NIL here.
Right.
I'm with you. I would like to see it because I feel like, I know we'll get into it when we're talking more NIL stuff too, but it feels like it's just going to take some of the, sounds cliche, but maybe like almost the pride and joy out of what makes college football great to begin with.
Right.
And,
yes.
For me, I'm thinking like, I have no problem with two transfers. I mean, that I don't have a problem with that. I think after that, there needs to be something in place. Like there has to be a file. You have to file for it and explain why you're doing it.
Like you used to have to, like you had to file for that hardship or you had to file for
right. That. If you're the college you're at, the coach gets busted for recruiting violations or something, something like that. And then there's sanctions put in place. And then okay, well, that's gonna be my last year at that school, or it's gonna be my senior year. Maybe get me out of here because we're screwed for next year.
Well, yeah, and they have those safeguards in place. So right now, if there's something like that with sanctions or even a head coaching change, you're allowed 30 days after that decision is made. So once the coach has left the program, you're allowed 30 days. Once the sanctions have gone, you're allowed 30 days. So, you know, it's not like there's no other options. If you can't, if something like that catastrophic happens, it's not like there's no other options.
Correct.
And, you know, I think we'd seen in the past, Justin Fields is one that came to mind for me. And again, it's no secret, anybody that's just joining, I'm a big Ohio State homer. So
Really?
I'm not, this actually is kind of against Ohio State in a sense. So when Justin Fields was playing at Georgia, and this was before you were allowed unlimited transfers. So he applied for immediate eligibility to leave Georgia and go to Ohio State. And I'm not sure, I didn't read the whole thing. I know that there were allegations of racism, which there probably were. I'm not discounting that at all. But he was granted immediate eligibility. And that same year, and gosh, I can't remember who it was, but that same year, there was a player on a lesser known team who his mother, I believe, was going through cancer. His mother had cancer or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he wanted to transfer to his home state, to his home school.
Right.
And they denied him.
Yeah.
So he had to get an attorney. He had to fight the NCAA. Yep. So there has to be some sort of impartial. You can't just these bigger schools, these Ohio States, and now these Notre Dames, the Penn States, you know, these teams that are the Texases, the Alabamas, the teams that are in the playoffs. Well, Alabama's not, but these teams that are bigger, these teams that are bigger, you know, you can't have any kind of bias towards that because money talks. Right. So I don't know what the answer is, but I know that whatever is happening right now, it's certainly not working. And I'm missing all of these comments. There's like a ton of comments here.
Oh, we got a topic. Get them all fired up.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, so you guys are the Herb and Raj podcast. I'm trying to get on your podcast, boys. You got to get a hold of me. So they said
me too, by the way.
The transfer portal isn't working as it was intended. It's not. It's working as free agency, except in free agency in the NFL, you have contracts and you can't just decide. It's insane. You can't just say, I don't like this team, because I have used the Browns as an example. If that were the case, I do believe that 75% of the Browns roster would say, I'm out of here. This is chaos. Like this is a nightmare. And they would. So, and they said again, as you know, Mike, from your fan perspective, it's just nuts.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Yeah,
and this is what I was talking about. Both Bama and UNLV had players quit in the middle of the season. They did. They quit in the middle of the season. They said they were going to redshirt because they weren't getting enough playing time, or their teams are not doing well, or whatever it is. And that's another thing. You know, you have these freshmen that come on and they want to play immediately, which I get. That's competitive, right? You want that, but you have to go out and compete. You have to go out and prove that you're worth it. You can't just say, oh, I came here, you better play me, you know, and then if you don't like it, you quit.
Well, I mean, case in point, Donovan McCulley out of Indiana. He was honorable mention Big Ten last year. And there it is. I see the comment. But he was honorable mention for all Big Ten last year. And then now when Cignetti came in, brought his guys with him, McCulley went down the depth chart. And after 3 games, he's like, I'm out. Redshirt me. And now he's going to Michigan.
I mean, and you know, and I understand, like I said, I understand the competitive nature, and I understand you were good and you were great and you want to play, but man, work at it. Stay that year. Stay the year. See if you can develop. See if you can. And oh God, I gotta go blue. Comment. Oh. But
let's go.
But you have to stay and compete and at least try. And maybe if it doesn't work out at the end of the year, then you say, and I understand it's their livelihood. It just, I don't know. I just don't like it the way it is right now. And
no,
it's just not.
It feels like it's been an overcorrection almost. Like it was horrible to start. And
so
now it's gone too far the other way.
Yeah, Kim just commented, boo Michigan. So I'm going to just get this out of the stupid way right now since Kim is watching. And okay, so my birthday was yesterday. Everybody knows because I'm an attention whore on Twitter. So everybody knows it was my birthday yesterday.
Watch your mouth, young lady.
And my girls My girls were amazing to me for my birthday. They took me to the Cavs game. Lana got me my tumbler here. Kim had her boyfriend make me this light. But look what else they got me. Look at this hideous monstrosity. This is horrific.
Brilliant.
It's
Absolutely
ugly.
brilliant.
And I can't say that it was Ken. I can't say what I said when I got it because, again, I'm not allowed to swear, but it wasn't polite when I got that. So there was no politeness. So I got it out of the way. So thank you for nothing for those gifts.
I'm just laughing at the humor of it. Not laughing at you or
yeah,
anything.
You're right. You're not laughing at me. It's so funny. That's so not cute. And the next video that you guys see is going to be me taking a hammer to this. It's gonna be me taking a hammer to this. He said he made that. No, I don't like it. It's ugly. So eligibility, the transfer portal, it's not working the way it is. I don't know how to fix it. I think you have to put some kind of term limit on how many times you can transfer.
I agree.
Do you think the NCAA is actually going to look into that? I don't, not for a couple of years.
No, not for a while. Yeah.
No.
Sometimes they barely know their backside from a hole in the ground. So
Right. Yeah. It's yes.
Yeah.
So let's go into, I think that's another nice segue to go into college football. Is NIL ruining college football? To me, it feels like, okay, so the purity of college football to me was they were going and they were playing to play and they were playing, potentially to go into the NFL, but you were playing for your education. You were playing for your scholarship. Should they have gotten money for their likeness when they were being used? Yeah, absolutely. Because the NCAA was $1 billion industry and these kids were getting nothing. They were making billions of dollars off of them and they weren't allowed to do anything. I mean, hello, Tattoo Gate. Like they weren't even allowed to go get free tattoos. Like you weren't allowed to do anything. So again, I think that we went from the most extreme regime to just a free for all now. So do you think the NIL is ruining college football?
It's going to if it keeps going the way it's going. I don't know if I'll say it's ruined it yet.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah,
but at this rate, it will ruin it. I mean, because you're looking at this, and I mean, case in point, look, and I'm not taking hey, Buckeyes fans, I'm not taking a shot here. I promise. He
is going to take a shot here, but go ahead.
I promise.
Go ahead. I know what I get into.
How much money y'all throwing out there right now?
20. I have the stats on that. Notre Dame has thrown a lot of money out too. No one knows because they're private, but yeah, 20 mil. We've thrown 20 mil out.
And Texas is 22, if I'm not mistaken.
Texas is at 22. Mm-hmm.
Right. And Michigan just threw 10 million
at one player.
Yeah, it looks like he's about 12.
Yeah. So
how does that make it good for the entire sport and multiple schools when you have? I'm sorry, I said I wasn't taking a shot at Ohio State, but we have
no. But again, but just being completely unbiased, Ohio State. That was one of the questions that I was going to ask. Are these teams buying their titles? Yes. Right now, I think that they are. They absolutely are, because if you look at all of the top NIL spending schools, they were all in the playoffs this year. So you have Ohio State at 20 mil. You have Texas at 22 mil. Now, Penn State is a little bit lower. They were at 13.7, but $13.7 million is a lot of money. And then Notre Dame, they're not a public school, so they're not required to disclose that, but it's estimated that they spent about $20.5 million on their players this year. So you have all of these top schools that combined, like I would take like 1% of that, but combined you're at like 80, or I'm sorry, you're at like $80 million almost.
Yeah. And for me, and I've read reports here locally in Indiana that Notre Dame number may be a little bit less, but who cares? It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's 20 million, if it's 16 million, it doesn't.
Right. They're still in the double digit millions.
Yeah, exactly right. So
they raised 20.5. They're saying, and they're pretty sure that they spent their cap. So
I mean, I'm going to, again, that depends on what report you read. It doesn't. To me, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because that's what everybody's have. It feels like that's what everybody's going to have to do now. I equate it a little bit to Major League Baseball.
Right.
I mean, one would argue that for the the Texas Ohio State game, it's like Dodgers Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, you know what I mean? So I think
it's Dodgers Yankees, and that's so how can these little schools compete? So is that a product of what we saw with the SMU, with the Boise, who just got manhandled? Now, okay, again, granted, they play in weaker conferences. They do.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to recruit as well. They're not going to, play those. Not that the SEC and the Big Ten had the most strong schedules, but they were much stronger than some of these smaller schools. But how can an SMU compete with an Ohio State? You can't. You can't
unless they cap it.
That was going to be my next question. Should there be like a salary cap like there is in the NFL, where you have, okay, each school has X amount of dollars that they can spend? Like, does it work? But then let me ask you this though: how do you stop boosters if these kids are allowed? How do you stop boosters from giving them jobs, or they get their endorsements, they get, how do you stop it? How do you stop it now that they opened up Pandora's box?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that you do or can. Boosters been doing this stuff forever. It's just, we know it more, now than what we used to, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's been going on in the SEC, I think, for a million years. But it's, to me, you got to start somewhere.
Well, you do.
Because look, I mean, you just take the Big Ten, for example, right? At this rate, it's going to be Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah, and Penn State will get their money, but if Penn State doesn't start to get some more donations from boosters and from the school, Oregon and Michigan and Ohio State are going to overtake them by a landslide, because eventually these kids are not going to be able to say no to going to where the money is.
Well, I think
they don't care about their free education anymore. They care about that. How many millions are you going to give me?
You're absolutely right. And, I say Penn State, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Well, right now, because they still are, like, they're 13 and it's 13.7 million. I mean, Ohio State was at 20 million, and 7 million is a lot, but the gap isn't as much from an Ohio State to a Penn State as it would be from an Ohio State to like an SMU or a Boise, who was also in the playoffs. The gap just isn't that big.
Well, you look at, you're absolutely right there. And I'm even looking at your own conference. I mean, you get the Big 18, whatever we're calling it now, right?
I don't know. They're going to be like the Big 25 here.
Yeah.
He talked about the fan of the super conference. That's what we are now, though. We are super conferences. Let's be completely honest here. Yeah. It's the Big Ten and it's the SEC. And then you have Notre Dame, who is independent, who arguably, I know that we've discussed this, Notre Dame is probably smart for not joining a conference, because they are getting that big fat TV deal from NBC, and they're not having to play that extra conference game, because look what that did.
Right.
Look what the conference championship games did. Nothing. Got them a bye, and all 4 teams that got their bye, gone. Mm-hmm. And they didn't just lose. Those teams got whacked. Yeah, the only game that was close was the Arizona State game.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it in a minute, but James Franklin with his comment about Notre Dame. So that raised some eyebrows here.
Well, James Franklin is just an eyebrow raise anyway. I do not understand how that guy still has a job. Congratulations, he made it this far, but you lose to Notre Dame, which I have them losing to Notre Dame. What do you do with him? You can't finish in these big games. And congratulations for beating 2 of the arguably the worst teams in college football playoffs. Right. Like, congratulations for that. Right.
Oh, I love how he says he misses the Pac-12. I think a lot of people do. And
yes.
I know the West Coast does, but even as a Big Ten guy, if you will.
I agree.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, always loved staying up late, Saturday nights and catching the Pac-12 game.
Well, and then, before the extension of the playoffs, you had the the Pac-12 and, the Pac-10, like, you had those bowl game matchups, those New Year's 6 bowl game matchups. So you were guaranteed to see teams from each conference playing. And it was always just fun because you got to watch teams that you didn't normally get to watch.
Correct.
So, and he said here, I had taken that comment off. He said here, everybody complains about the money that Ohio State spent on NIL, but as a fan, you want your team. So they're Alabama fans. And I think you guys go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys was it the Vanderbilt game or something like that you guys were at? Because I was following along on X, the misery. As a fan, I can understand that. But as a fan, you get mad. Ohio State's spending $20 million. Texas is spending $22 million. You guys are buying championships. Yeah, we are. As a fan, I'm okay with that, because as a fan, I would be mad if my team wasn't trying to compete and wasn't trying to do that. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, as a fan, Mike, okay, you're a Purdue fan. And again, I'm not calling out Purdue, but Purdue is never going to be able to compete with a Michigan, with an Ohio State, with an Oregon. They're never going to be able to compete with that.
Well, so first and foremost, Purdue is one of the handful of self-sustained or self-funded athletic departments in the country. So they have their own, it's like their own separate business, at Purdue. Now, we'll see what happens going forward, because typically when they get all this booster money, Purdue, they're building a new academic building and sending more astronauts into space, which is awesome.
Right, which is great. But you know what? We
like
sports here. We like
football fan. You're like, Ohio State got 20 mil here. Michigan threw 10 million on a quarterback. Penn State's about 13, 14 million here. IU just turned it around, and that's our biggest rival. What the bleep are we doing? Now, they're saying they're going to start funneling more money in. We will see. But to your point, right now, teams like that or schools like that are not going to be able to hang with the Ohio States, the Bamas, the Michigans, Texas. And I don't love that, which is why I think that, look, your brand is already what it is. That's not going to go away.
Mm-mm.
If I'm a stud college or high school player coming up in the ranks, and I've got Ryan Day or Jim Knowles, those guys knocking on my door saying, "Hey, we got you. We want you here."
Right. That's right.
I'm not even a fan of Ohio State. I'd be going, yeah, I'm in. Let's go. That's a brand. A lot of NFL players. Like, it's a strong brand. You're always going to have that at Ohio State. Michigan's going to have that too. Texas, Alabama, they're all going to have that. And that's still going to be a draw for these players chasing that dream, I think, of being in the NFL. But I still think you might have this handful of players who are like, hey, you know what? My family went to
Dylan Raiola for Nebraska. Like, he was a 5-star. He was at Bama, and he decommitted. So you can get them.
Yeah, and few and far between right now. But that's why I think some sort of cap of something might help.
A salary cap.
Yeah. It's because
at least a base salary cap for universities to spend, so that it makes it a little bit more even across universities. And then, you let it play out and see what the booster donations look like, or what the endorsements look like. And then you try to figure something else out, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're exactly right. And I think, to me, that might be a decent place to start and see what happens.
Right. What's it going to hurt? Because again, with the transfer, it's like we went from the most draconian laws and you couldn't do anything to just the wild, wild west, man. It is lawless out here.
Yeah. And as just selfishly as a fan, I don't love that. I don't. I love the fact that I just feel like they went too far with it. I love the idea initially. And now it's getting a little bit, okay, let's rein this in a bit.
Right. Something needed to change. And again, like I am being completely candid. As a fan of Ohio State, I love it.
Of course.
Because we got Caleb Downs, we got Seth McLaughlin. Like, we got a lot of these players that we would not normally have gotten out of the transfer portal. Now, was it probably a draw to come play for a coach like Jim Knowles for Caleb Downs? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was part of it, but I can promise you that NIL deal pushed him over the finish line.
Oh, I'm sure he sure did.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it?
Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma. I knew I remembered. I remembered that it was not a fun game for you guys, because
it was not.
No, that was not a good. That Oklahoma game is what kept you guys out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think
that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That no one saw that coming.
So someone asked, could you possibly see conferences want to expand or remove small cash programs? No, I don't think so, because there's still that draw there. The conferences can't expand much more than they have. I think the only expansion that we're going to see at this point are 2 super conferences, where you have the best of the best teams and then everybody else is left out. And really, I don't even think from a fan perspective you want to see that, because we do like watching some of the smaller programs play. I mean, I personally do. I don't know. Plus the tickets are cheaper to go to games. I take my dad to the first game of the year every year to Ohio State, because I don't have to spend $1,700 to get decent seats. So
always come over to a Purdue game. You can spend like $50.
Not against Ohio State though. We travel really well. I want to watch.
If you buy it in advance, you can still get it. You can still make it.
I want to watch good football. So
you'll see good football when Ohio State comes here next year.
There we go. I like it. I'll be there. And then we got, I think FSU still wants to leave the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
Who wants them? I don't want them. What they should really focus on is they're a garbage team in a garbage conference. Maybe they should try to build it up, and maybe they can win that conference championship and get an automatic bid into the playoffs, because boy, what a fall from grace. Oh yeah, boy.
I'm not even a big fan of them necessarily, but no hate, but it's still like it is kind of weird seeing them that falls.
It is. Yeah, they're not very good.
Yep.
So the last comment that I'll post on this before we move on to the previews is, and this is an excellent point. The little schools used to be able to compete because they kept their teams together longer. Yep. But you're right. Now that you have that immediate eligibility and that you have all that NIL money, waving in your face, you can go to a smaller school and dominate and have these just ridiculous, gaudy stats. And then these bigger schools are going to want you. So, yeah. And I'm so sorry. Yeah, Dylan was Georgia, not Alabama. I'm just trashing Alabama today. It's not the way to get on your podcast, is it? I'm gonna stop it there. I'm gonna drop it there. I'm not gonna dig myself any deeper with the Bama. So now we're gonna move into the college football semifinals. Guys, we are in the semifinals. 2024 is over. We are 2 games away from deciding who the national title team is going to be this year. And you know what? I need to check this. I actually put a poll out on X before I got on here to see who everybody thought was going to be there. Who is going to be it's okay. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if it's because it's me and my account, but 67% of the people said Ohio State's going to be the national title. So it's hard to say if it's unbiased or if it's biased or not. And then we had 14% of the people did say Texas. And then we had Notre Dame coming in at 13%, and then Penn State was only at 6%. So I think the general consensus is it's definitely not going to be Penn State. So we're going to preview this Notre Dame versus Penn State in the Orange Bowl. And if I'm being completely honest with you, and I'm not blowing my own horn, I actually predict this for 2 reasons. One, I have Notre Dame going to the final. Mm-hmm. And then 2, I said that Penn State, from the very beginning when the brackets came out, I said Penn State easily had the easiest road to get to the semis. I mean, they had the 2 cupcakes.
Yeah.
So who do you have? Let's start with that. Like, what are your immediate thoughts on this game?
Man, there's a lot that goes to my head on this one. And I try not, I'm not, me, I call it BSPN as well.
We both call it BSPN.
And, I was doing a happy dance when they took down Georgia.
I was too. I was glad.
And not to go backwards here, because I know you've recapped it, but on your show last week, but you look at some of those stats and you're looking, and then you see the score and be like, what happened? How did Georgia not win? And I thought, to me, that was one of the more impressive things from a Notre Dame standpoint, because, Jeremiah Love didn't go crazy. In fact, he got hurt.
Right. He did not have a good game. I mean, he didn't have a great game. No, I think they only had 200 and some odd yards rushing. And I think they only had 90 yards passing or something like that. So it wasn't an offensive explosion at all.
well, especially from the passing aspect.
Right. Well, it never has been. Yeah.
Never. No, they're like, I think at the end of the regular season, they're ranked 178th in passing offense. I mean, it's not ideal,
Bad.
but yet Riley Leonard still made some key plays when he needed to make.
Well, he found a way.
He found a way, and that's what.
And that's what good teams do.
And that's what they've been doing ever since that Northern Illinois disaster. Because for them, what I remind everybody is that's been every game for them since that horrible loss has been a playoff game. Because they knew if they lost again, they were out.
Yep.
And look what they've done. They've flipped the script, and they've been a completely different team.
Well, that's the beauty of the extended playoffs. I know there was a lot of 12 is too many, but that is actually the beauty of the playoffs, because the best teams, I think, are left. I do truly think that the best teams are left. And had they not had this expanded playoffs, Ohio State wouldn't have been in it. Texas wouldn't have been in it. I don't think Notre Dame would have been in it. So, arguably you can say those three. Hell, Georgia may not have been in it had they not won the conference championship, because every team was beat up this year. So, Notre Dame sometimes losing does you good, because all kidding aside, that Michigan loss for us, we're a new team all of a sudden. We'll talk about that next.
Yeah, I got a little quasi joke to mention about that, but I think it's not even a joke, it's facts.
Oh God. Ethan said, I've seen more explosive diarrhea than the Notre Dame offense. The Penn State and Notre Dame matchup is setting up to be a defensive battle.
Well,
it is. You so eloquently put it. That's
yeah. I mean,
I love that. That might be my favorite.
Well, they've had offensive explosions, if you will, against mediocre, not good teams.
Well, and you're supposed to do that. Listen.
Correct.
Riley Leonard, he's got 18 touchdowns for the year. That's not a lot. That's not, for a quarterback, especially in college, when you're playing some of these really, teams that you're going to put up, 50, 60 points up against. 18 is not a lot.
No, it's not.
Then you have Jeremiah Love, who's almost 1,100 yards and 16 touchdowns. Like, he's just so good. He's so good.
And Price leads, as the end of the regular season, led the nation in yards after contact as a running back. So they got a two-headed monster back there.
Yeah.
And then Leonard's a dual. I mean, I say dual threat because we know he doesn't pass great, but that's what made him, during parts of the regular season, he would make that key pass against some of those, lesser mediocre teams, and that just kept that defense honest, right? But now, obviously, you're playing, Georgia. He didn't pass for anything. They still found a way to win. And now they're using that same argument for Penn State, which was my initial thing about the whole BSPN thing. That, I heard him today. Well, Penn State's got the better quarterback. True. That's fine. They do.
Yeah, they do have the better quarterback. But Notre Dame is ranked lower than Penn State in defense, but I still think that Notre Dame's defense is better than – I think it's because Notre Dame's secondary – is better to me than Penn State's secondary. So I think that where Penn State's going to struggle is they're going to have to rely on a run game, and I'm not sure they're designed for that.
They're not, and I don't think Penn State has enough weapons.
They certainly don't. You have two teams that are not very. They're stagnant offensively in a sense, and I hate to use the word stagnant because I think we're seeing like old Big Ten football with these two teams, and I'm just going to lump Notre Dame into that since they're homeless. Their defense. They are ground and pound, and then we're going to stop you. When it's our time, we're going to bend. We're not going to break. We're not going to let you score touchdowns. That's kind of like the way it used to be. Now we're used to 35, 40. Ohio State, we don't see 40 points. Right. If we don't see 40 points in this game against Texas, I can almost promise you that my feed is going to be melting down because people are going to be so mad that we're not scoring on every drive. Where you're getting into the better defenses, and I think that that's where I just think that Notre Dame has a slight edge on defense just because of their secondary.
I agree. And this is where I get to remind everybody that Notre Dame, we heard this a lot last week, and I'm sorry to keep going back to last week. Whole narrative was Georgia had their backup quarterback. Have you all seen how many injuries Notre Dame defense has had this year?
Right.
They have 3 All-Americans out for the year.
Right.
And they're still, look what they're doing. So talk about
Well,
the next
you guys
man
have
up mentality.
Xavier.
Yeah, we do. Xavier's pretty good.
Yeah.
But you did see that Georgia was able to push the ball at points, not the entire game, but at points during that game. I don't know if Penn State has the ability to do that.
No, I agree. I don't think that Penn State has that. Georgia had a better offense. Georgia had a stronger offense. Georgia had more weapons. You know, I just don't think that Penn State. So looking at Drew Aller's numbers, almost 3,200 passing yards, 24 touchdowns. But he did it against, again, like we were talking about, he put up really big, gaudy numbers against the teams that you're supposed to. So like your Akrons, your MAC schools, like they beat up on those schools. When they played schools that had better defenses, and Ohio State's a really good example. They scored exactly 0 offensive touchdowns against Ohio State. And we hadn't found our stride yet. We were just starting to find our stride defensively when we played when we played Penn State.
Yeah, correct.
So against these better teams, and I kind of liken it to like in Indiana, where they beat up on the schools that they were supposed to, and they kind of faltered against the schools that had a bit better defense. And that's where Penn State is. They just don't have that. You don't look at them and say, they're going to put up 28 points. You're going to be like, maybe you'll get 17 out of them.
Yeah. And, I think, honestly, Notre Dame beating Georgia, and I think that readies them a little bit more for this matchup. Just my opinion.
Oh, I agree. Penn State's going to be at the disadvantage here because they were able to bulldoze over teams that they're supposed to. Yep. You were supposed to bulldoze. I don't think anybody, unless you were a fan of Boise, unless you were a fan of SMU, I don't think anybody had Penn State losing those games.
No, I don't think so either.
And if you watched any of those 2 games, Penn State did it defensively. SMU threw, in the first 4 series, there were 3 turnovers? Well, two interceptions and then 1 turnover on downs because, their quarterback had a rough day. He had a rough day. Penn State, they did it defensively. They didn't do it offensively. In the second half, they stepped it up a little bit, but they didn't do it offensively. They did it defensively.
Right. And I think now, when they played Boise State, their defense was focused on one guy.
Right.
And shut him down. You beat Boise State.
Right.
Now, granted, I understand what you'll say from anybody will say from a Notre Dame standpoint. Well, stop the run. Well, Georgia contained the run, and how'd that work out for them?
Well, and that's what Manny is saying, stack the box on Notre Dame and stop the run. But you can arguably say blitz Aller because they've got a really good secondary and Penn State's not going to be able to run. I mean, Katron Allen, he's good, almost 1,100 yards, but they don't rely on that run game. I just don't see Penn State being able to bust through that Notre Dame defense.
I agree with you 100%. I was trying to pull up a little stat here. Forgive me, but I did see a few things with face on from the Irish. I think Leonard, what he can do, because I expect, they very well could throw a lot of guys in the box. That dude gets the ball in open space. He can make people miss. That dude is sneaky fast. I could see potentially Freeman drawing up some plays to get him the ball in more open space. He did have it a few times against Georgia, and he was making a few Georgia guys miss. So, look, if that's what happens, and it very well might, it'll come down to Leonard. Can he make those key passes or those key plays like he's done a vast majority of the season? And I think he'll continue that, just the way that kind of swagger they have now with Freeman kind of leading the charge.
Well, they're buying into it. They have a really good coach now. They have a good coach, and they're getting over that not being able to finish big games hump.
Yeah, and they're not playing on their heels. Like, this isn't the old Brian Kelly teams of old where they just you see them go into a big game, like, all right, you're going to lose by 3 touchdowns. You just know it. And now it's like, man, I don't know that. No, I don't know that so much anymore. It's just a different.
No. And what's scary, I think, right now is that Notre Dame is, I hate to use the word stagnant. Notre Dame just isn't as explosive offensively. They rely on defense, but that's going to change. I can promise you that's going to change.
Oh, yeah.
Freeman's going to go in and they're going to spend that money and they're going to, that's going to change.
No,
but right now, as it stands, both Notre Dame and Penn State are perfectly fine with that 10-7. They are. Yeah. They're style points out the window. You don't need to blow out teams right now. You just need to win. You win and you move on. So who cares? Who cares if it's a 10-7?
Nope. Notre Dame will be happy with that, and they will punch you in the mouth every chance they get in the process.
Yeah. And Manny, I agree. I actually do agree. Sorry. Manny was saying that with teams like Ohio State, there's too much speed. We'll do a preview. If it's Ohio, whoever it is, we'll do a preview. Mike, you can come back. If it's Notre Dame and Ohio State, we can go at it because we'll make another little friendly wager that you'll have to pay up on.
No, won't.
He said, nope, I'm not doing that again. No. But yeah, Penn State did benefit from a really great draw. I've said it. It's a broken record. They had the easiest road to get to the semis. And Ethan, at the end of the day, I agree. I trust Notre Dame. I trust Notre Dame and Freeman over Penn State and Franklin because let's look at his record.
I agree.
Freeman, I think, just has those guys hungry and ready. So it's going to be a low scoring game. I'm not saying it's only going to be 10-7, but I think that there isn't going to be too many. I'm going to go like maybe 17-14 Notre Dame.
I'm going to go a touch higher, not much. I'm going to say either another special teams touchdown or maybe a pick six type of thing. So give me 23-17 Irish.
Okay. All right. So not much higher. So, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a low score.
Yeah, it's going to be a low scoring game. Yeah. 2 pick sixes. We have 2 pick sixes. Yeah, Ethan, you take whoever is betting on this one, take the under. Definitely take the under on this one.
We know what's going to happen now, right? When everybody says take the under, it's going to be a 45-41 shootout.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to go into like 8 overtimes, like the Texas Georgia game.
Right.
I'm still bitter about that one. Or not, I'm sorry, the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech. I'm still bitter about that. Well, the Texas Georgia game went into overtime because I tweet, I'm like, if this goes into 8 overtime, then I'd be so mad. Oh, there's Raj. Raj is chiming in. Thank you. Thank you for joining. We roll tide. I'm glad that you joined us late because I was trashing your boys earlier, but I stopped. Right. I stopped. Yeah. Don't go back and watch the replay.
I got one grab in, I think. That was it.
You did, but it was me that was doing most of the. Yeah. And then we have Manny agreeing that it's going to be Notre Dame over Penn State. So anything else, any closing arguments on Notre Dame, Penn State? I think we all agree it's going to be a low scoring game. It's going to be a defensive game. And just a reminder to everyone, tune in. Mike's going to do his show. It starts at 7 tomorrow, and I'm going to join in right around 7:30-ish. And we're going to talk about college football while we're watching college football.
Right.
Okay. So moving on to, of course, the game that I'm interested in. I'm actually interested in both of these games just as a fan. I'm definitely interested in both of these games. But the game that I have my heart and soul into is this Ohio State-Texas game. So, Mike, I'm going to let you go ahead and kick us off here because you know where I live with this, and there's going to be shots fired. I'm ready to bite back. I'm ready to fight back. So
there's no hate here. It's all love. Yeah, and it's all good, fun, friendly banter. So I thought I would do this little thing just to have a little bit of fun with your audience, right?
Yeah, this is going to be fun, guys. It's going to be real fun.
I was digging through the closet and I realized I had this from the bet that I lost, right? I still have it, y'all.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, you guys missed it. We bet on the Indiana-Ohio State game, and he lost, so he had to buy an Ohio State shirt and sing the fight song, and he paid up. He paid up on it, so he has this Ohio State shirt.
Yep, I have that. And then as I was digging through, I realized, well, wait a minute. What is this that I have here? How did this get into my closet?
How do you even have that? That's disgusting. How did this get
here? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I bought it. Hook 'em horns. I'm kidding. Look, I bought that thing like years and years ago, and I literally forgot I had it.
Years ago. He bought it years ago. Hook 'em horns.
I could tell you, I literally bought that thing like 10 years ago. I don't even know why I bought it, to be honest with you. But I literally was going through the closet. I saw that. I'm like, oh, I got to break that out.
You had a head injury. You must have had a head injury.
So I was like, I'm going to go. Just for that, I'm going to say hook 'em horns 66-3. No, kidding. I'll give you this. Ohio State's going to win this game, and I think they're going to win this by about 3 touchdowns. I'm not kidding.
Well, if they keep playing the way that they – Ethan, yeah, Texas is going to lose because of the awful band uniforms. I would agree with you with that one. We are – and we have the best damn band in the land too. So so anyway.
No.
Give me let's talk about let's break it down. Let's break the game down. Even though you're being a jerk with your shirt, it's okay. We can overlook it. I still have
this other one too. It's still here. Oh wait, never mind. Yes, let's break this down because I do have some. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you go.
No. I was counterbalancing your grossness with Script Ohio.
Getting friendly banter, had to do it. So no, look, the only team left in this college football playoff that can beat Ohio State is Ohio State.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before we got on here. We were talking about that. I think that Ohio State is Ohio State's biggest enemy right now.
And I think, and this is where I was mentioning this earlier in the show. You could probably thank Michigan for a little bit for that.
Oh, I agree. I think that
did just wake up. I mean, I haven't been really critical of so much of the players. I've been really critical of your coaching staff.
Absolutely. It woke up. Chip Kelly all of a sudden is calling it. We forgot what a forward pass was in that game.
Right. You did. And I think, and you and I have even talked about this, I think in the Big Ten championship game, Penn State exposed Oregon a little bit.
I agree. And Jim Knowles was watching every single second of that game, and he watched it 712 different times.
Yeah. So right there, I'm sitting there. I told you I thought Ohio State was going to beat Oregon. Did I think it was going to be the whooping that it was? I did not, but I thought they would. I did legit think they're going to win that game, and to me it's like you can almost take Penn State a little bit for that. So
well, I do agree because going into that game real quick, you are cool. You two are so cool. I adore you two, and you know that I can take the ribbing too from Ohio State, which is why I can give it out because I can dish it out, but I can.
I'll back her on that.
Thank you. So I think going into that Oregon Penn State, I think everybody thought Oregon was just going to go in and they were going to steamroll them, and it was going to be 48-10, and it was just going to be a complete annihilation. And Penn State played. They exposed that Oregon defense, and Oregon didn't look like Oregon. Nope. And I think that was helpful too. So again, it goes back to maybe not playing in a conference championship is a benefit. Is that extra 3 weeks off worth it? Is playing that extra game worth it? It certainly didn't look like it, especially for Oregon.
I agree. Yeah, I 100% agree.
So what do you think about, so with Texas, what do you think about Quinn Ewers? Okay, listen, I said this last week. I do a podcast, so I'm an expert on everything that I talk about because I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, right? We know what we're talking about. But Quinn Ewers, I can't figure out Quinn Ewers. I can't figure him out because he's either really, really good. He's, you've seen flashes of him where you're like, he's going to be a first rounder. He's going to go into the NFL. He's going to be really good. And then as of late, I'm like, okay, this guy is going to be lucky if he's like a second, third rounder in the NFL. His draft stock to me, it just keeps dropping because he's pretty inconsistent.
Well, he's very inconsistent, and I think in order for Texas to actually have a chance in this game, he can't do that. He's got to be consistent. He can't be making, you saw him against Arizona State. There's some throws he made. You're like, yeah.
This comment from Ethan. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, for us, for those of you who are younger and watching us, you don't know what that means. Yep. Oregon Trail. We all played Oregon Trail. We all died of dysentery. We all died of starvation. So that's what happened to Oregon. Maybe that'll happen to Texas. Texas will Bevo. They'll eat spoiled meat because you ate spoiled meat in Oregon Trail too. but There was Ohio State will rack up 5 sacks against Texas. So that's actually a good point. Ewers is going to have to make quick decisions because I think Ohio State defense has shown, especially against Tennessee, especially against Oregon, that we're going to put pressure on the quarterback. And Quinn Ewers is going to have to make quicker decisions. He's not going to have as much time to get that ball out. So, and that bodes well. I can't remember if it was you that I was talking to it, but I talk a lot, so I can't remember everybody that I talk to. But our secondary has looked a lot better. No, I just talk a lot. Our secondary has looked so much better because we're getting pressure on the quarterback, and the quarterback is not having as much time to get the ball out. So the wide receivers aren't having enough time to get separation. So our secondary is benefiting from that. So I think that if Ohio State can get that great pressure again, if you have, Sawyer, you have JTT, you have Tyleik Williams, you have them having these games that they've been having, I think that we can win. Now, do I feel confident about it? No. Am I going to have to be medicated? Am I medicated? Am I going to have probably a gummy and some Tito's? Yeah, probably, because I never feel good about this. But
okay, so I'm gonna tell you this. For everything you said, you're absolutely spot on correct. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to give it from a Texas perspective. I don't think this is going to happen, what I'm about to say, but this is, to me, the only way Texas, to me, has a real shot. And this means them doing something that they have not done in a hot minute, and that's run the ball well.
Right. Yeah.
You cannot be one-dimensional, especially against Ohio State. You cannot do that.
Right.
If by scheming, whatever, they can come up ways to find some running lanes. I don't mean to get a rush for 7 yards carry.
No.
But if you
have to get those first downs, you have to get those 3rd and 5s, you have to get those 2nd and 8s. You have to make it manageable.
Well, even if they was 3.5 to 4, I mean, that's passable enough to where. And here's my little wrinkle I'm gonna throw in here. If they can get that and I don't think they can, to be honest with you, I'll repeat myself. If that happens, I think you're gonna see some doses of Arch Manning.
Which I'm not sure how I feel about that too, because Arch Manning was inserted into I forget what game it was. Is it the Alabama game maybe when they were getting waxed?
Them or Georgia, I can't remember which one it was.
It was either Bama or Georgia, I can't remember, but they were losing really. No, it was Georgia. I think it was Georgia. They were losing really. Yeah, they were losing bad. And Arch Manning didn't go in and do much better.
That was a stupid time to put him in.
I agree. I completely agree. But if that's his one and only experience, he doesn't have a whole lot he's pretty green.
He's green, but he's talented. And here's where I'm going with that.
Oh, he is. He's exceptionally. Do not miss anybody on here. Please don't DM me. I'm not saying that he is not talented. He is exceptionally talented.
My only point with bringing that up, Heather, is it adds a wrinkle to the Texas offense that could.
It does that you're not prepared for, that there's no film on.
Ohio State's defense a little more honest. I think that is the way where Texas possibly could, if they can establish some sort of a run. I don't think they're going to be able to. I think Ohio State wins big. I really do. But that's Texas' shot to me, because I think defensively, from a defensive standpoint from Texas, stout defense. Am I intimidated by it? Does it scare me? No, but it's very, very good.
Right. It's very, very good.
They got some athletes, and especially in the secondary. Can anybody
cover Smith though? Like, can anybody cover him? I don't think so. I don't know. He was created in a lab. Like, he's not human.
My answer is no on that. However, again, you run some schemes defensively. Can you get Howard a little flustered? Can you stop the run? That's how Texas can
get some, because our O-line is banged up.
Correct. Those are just some ideas from a Texas standpoint where I think they could keep the game close.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see all that happening just by the way Ohio State's playing right now, and which goes back to my original point. The only team right now that's going to beat Ohio State is Ohio State.
Well, and what's been really nice to watch Ohio State. So a lot of games, and Ethan and I talked about this last week. A lot of teams, you have to establish the run game. You have to establish the line of scrimmage so you can open up that pass game. But Ohio State's different. You have to establish that passing game, and that's when it opens up our run game. And that's where we effed up against Michigan. And again, I know these things because I talk about it, but we didn't pass. We tried an expert. We tried so hard to establish the line of scrimmage and to be tough and it got us nowhere. And then we were not able to pass the ball. Right. We are best when we are passing the ball and then we're running. I mean, Trey busted out a 66-yard run last in Quinshon Judkins. He ended up having like 80 plus yards. So together, those two are really good. They're just really good. And if we can establish that, and we have Emeka Egbuka, and if we get Carnell Tate involved, I don't think there's anybody that's going to stop us because Texas doesn't have enough in their secondary to stop 3 wide receivers.
Well, and nobody in the country does.
Right.
I mean, Ohio State, we've said it all year, they're loaded with talent. And there were so many head-scratching games early in the season. It's like, how in the bleep are they only beating Nebraska 21-17? They should be steamrolling.
Oh, I was at that game. You know how frustrated I was? I was at that game. I was
so head-scratching with all this talent on the team that they were just barely getting by some games. It was a head-scratcher to me. But now they seem to figured it out.
Yeah.
And right now, it would just be self-inflicted wounds.
Well, and Ethan, like Ethan said, if we jump on I would say we, like I'm out there playing, if we jump on Texas the way that we did against the Vols and the Ducks, like you could put anybody out there and you're not going to come back from that because our defense is not going to give up, 28 consecutive points without us scoring.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
Of course not. And I just mentioned the quarterback wrinkle earlier because I think if Texas
can't, I know, but it's a great point. Like I will hand it to you. That's a great point. It is, and it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be like the Tennessee game or the Oregon game where they only put up 21 points max. I think Tennessee only had that last touchdown. I'm still bitter about it. I know we won, but that was not an interception. That was pass interference. Jeremiah Smith, he was interfered on in the end zone. Don't shake your head at me.
Who the bleep cares?
No, but I'm just saying it wrecked our stats. It wrecked our defensive stats. Stop it.
Because that matters at this point in the season.
Yeah. We corrected ourselves. I corrected myself immediately. I said Alabama, but I corrected myself immediately.
No, nice call, boys.
But
all right, so
I just think that Ohio State has too much offensive star power right now, and their egos are this big. Like their egos are this big, and that's what you need going into this game. You need them to go in, and you need them to think that they are the best, and they know that they're the best, and they're going to go in, and no one's going to stop them. So I think that right now, after that Michigan game, they were in such a lousy headspace, and fans are super fickle. Like they're jerks. They were getting death threats. Like they were, it was really bad. And I'm going to say it again. I closed the show out last week with that. Stop it. They're kids. It's a game. Jesus. If you threaten them with death, I hope you step on Legos every day for the rest of your life. Like it's every day. So yeah, Drew said he likes how I say we. I say we. I'm a part of the team.
And I saw the I know, right? I think you and I joked about that too.
Right.
Yes, he's the best wide receiver in the country, and I would actually maybe throw the NFL into that too. Like he would be a number one on a lot of NFL teams right now.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely going to go number one when he because he isn't staying all 3 years. Whatever. Okay, so we were talking about the NIL earlier. Whatever Smith wants,
pay the man.
Pay him. He wants $10 million. Let's start a GoFundMe. Yeah, Sean, they do. They have the confidence and they're playing with an edge. And their defense is fast right now. That defense is a defense that we haven't seen all year. They are flying all over the field. And it just seems like with every TFL, every sack, like it just gets them a little bit more jacked up. And you're not seeing Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun get cooked anymore. You're seeing them be able to cover because the quarterback doesn't have enough time. He doesn't have all day in the pocket to find a wide receiver that's open. So I just think that I do think Ohio State has an edge right now. Am I confident? No. No, I'm not confident because it's me. But it's me. I'm telling you, I'm going to be I will be happy tweeting because I will be very deep in some Tito's and lemonade.
You want me to send that to you?
Yeah, go ahead. And then I'll do a video of me smashing this guy with a hammer and setting that thing on fire.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll have a bonfire, and then I'll take the pieces of this and throw it in the fire. So
I'm gonna go this. I'm gonna give you, we'll say 38-17 Ohio State.
Okay, I was gonna go 35-24. That's where I was gonna go.
This game will not be close in my eyes. I think the spread's like 5.5.
It is. The spread's 5.5.
Yeah,
but the spread's been a little bit closer. I think Ohio State was only a small favorite for the Oregon game too. I mean, it's hard to predict human behavior, right?
Yeah. If this game is close, it's because Ohio State messed up a lot.
Let's not hope that happens.
So we'll see.
Okay, well, you guys, we are a little bit over the hour. Thank you for listening. I'm going to go ahead and Sean said 35-13. So we have some people who think that this isn't going to be. I'm glad everybody is a little bit more confident than me. It's just my anxiety, you guys. It's just my anxiety that's because I will not be okay if we lose this. I promise you, I will not be okay. So, in conclusion, I won't be okay. I will be medicated, but I will still be rage tweeting during the whole game. So, Mike, remind us again where we can find you. Tell us, just for everybody that's joining us late, I will plug you a little bit. You guys, he does his shows on Thursdays or Fridays. You just have to follow him. Follow him wherever it is here. Yep. All three of those platforms. You guys, I listen to his show. I'm an Ohio girl, right? You guys know I'm an Ohio girl. He's an Indiana guy, but his show is really good. So if you want to expand your horizons, you want to broaden your knowledge a little bit, please follow him and listen to his show. So Mike, tell us a little bit about your show and where we can find you.
Yep. So on the X Twitter platform @TheChillMike, that's my personal account as well. I do probably spend most of my time on that one. I also do some little bit of a tweeting, if you will, posting at the @IndieSports_IESR account. IE Sports Radio is where you can find my show, and we'll be live. Show's called Indie Sports Nation. I've covered all things Indiana sports. Tomorrow will be the debacle that's the Indianapolis Colts, and then we'll be, as we mentioned earlier, Heather will be on with me tomorrow during the Notre Dame Penn State game, so around 7:30, and we'll be having some fun doing some little play-by-play, maybe, if you will, and some friendly banter about college football. Should be a lot of fun. So 7 p.m. tomorrow is when the show starts. She'll be on about 7:30, and then follow the socials after that, and my show will probably go back to Fridays going forward, but more to come.
Yeah, but that's follow, because it's like me. We all have real life jobs, so we base our pod schedule on our real life jobs. So our jobs that pay us, not these fun little things.
Right.
So follow Mike, and you'll be able to get that schedule because he puts it out just like I do. So don't forget, everybody, to follow us. Follow Bougie Sports on YouTube @Bougie Sports. Follow me if you're not already on X, Twitter. I still call it Twitter, @Love Buckeyes. And please go and check us out at bougiesports.net. You'll be able to find out all of the things that this incredible group of women are doing. We don't just do college football. We don't just do NFL. There's a lot of things. I know Lana and Lysandra, two of my very best friends, are doing some stuff with WWE. So check that out. And we just added Posh. So she's going to start doing some fun stuff with us. So check us out, bougiesports.net. Check us out at YouTube, Bougie Sports. Subscribe and follow me. Follow Mike. And everybody have an amazing night. Go Cavs. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to go watch the game and doing the Dog Chug podcast at 10 o'clock. So if you are brave enough, check that out at 10 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We very much appreciate it, and have an amazing night.